just say something about one of my biases, and I almost get like a Tourette's syndrome when I hear user-centered design or user experience. I really react because I think it should be people. So I'm just going to ask the audience, how many of you woke up this morning saying, hallelujah, I am a user? So please remember that, and remember that it's about people. That's why we're here. And so I really wish we could change UX to PX. And I didn't intend to say that, but now I have. Thanks. A British designer once said, design is both a political and cultural force for a change, or for change. And he's right. Activism, protest, and design have always gone hand in hand. And design in the form of a logo, a poster, a service, or a product can become an instantly recognizable symbol of a movement. This is my symbol. It's from my dear friend Wilhelm. There are actually two, Wilhelm and Denise, who are graffiti artists in the Netherlands. And I just associate so much to that little girl in a cake, maybe because I'm little, who knows, and a bear cub representing nature. The reason I'm here today is that I have a fundamental belief in humanity, the goodness and light in each and every human being. If we had some way to collect on this, some way to merge all of the incredible goodness in us, we can and will avoid the looming apocalypse and fall of humanity. Yuval Harari said just a week before Ukraine that the situation in Ukraine might just be the end. I'm trying to be more hopeful. As a practitioner of design anthropology, design psychology, product and service design, my job has been to facilitate the unveiling of multiple truths for my employers, my clients, my students, my colleagues, my friends, my informants. All of these people are the people I serve. And it's really funny, I think, that we cannot say the people we serve in the Scandinavian languages. That tells you something, that we have a problem. We cannot say it. It doesn't make sense. The people we serve, folk vi ska betjäna. It just doesn't work. I know of no other way to voice my humbleness and appreciation for all living things. And I've always said that there is no one truth, that in any argument, there's no one truth. No matter what the argument is, both sides are correct, but only partially. Context and culture at any given moment play a role in what is seen as truth. But there is actually one truth. The world is changing and will continue to change, and we are part of that change as long as we breathe on this planet. It's my belief that we as humans, not as service designers or PX designers, UX designers, we are responsible and must be held accountable for guiding and facilitating reflected change for the good of our people, our companies, our communities, our nations, and our planet. We must save humanity, and we must save planet Earth. I want to point out areas of improvements in our field and the vision of transformation and paradigm shifts at our fingertips if we are brave enough, if we are courageous enough. I believe there is one central thing that stops us in the field of design: our arrogance. Our arrogance in the way we think and do things. Becoming arrogant is built into the way we learn, and my goal is for us to unlearn. Let me tell you a bit about where my thoughts come from, where my biases lie, because only then you can decide for yourself if what I'm making sense, if what I'm saying is making sense. And the two most important people in my life, the most influential people in my life, curiously enough, were both artists. They paved the way and gave me a lens to absorb anthropology, psychology, and design in every cell of my body. They gave me a way to maintain curiosity and creativity in everything I do. What they really paved the way for was absorbing knowledge. And I'm going to come back to that. But first, let me tell you more about them. These two people are Barry Mosher, my high school art teacher, and Ben Shahn, a Harvard art professor, who wrote the book Shape of Content in 1957. Barry gave me this book as a 16-year-old when I was contemplating the meaning of life. I was wondering if life was even worth living. Barry Mosher and this beautiful book saved me. In the beginning of the book, Sean talks about the holistic mindset. In my opinion, this is the key to saving humanity and the planet, and our ability to bring back a holistic mindset is critical. We designers claim to have done this with design thinking and doing, and that is arrogant. I despise what this has done to us. It has made us think we are better than everyone else because we own thinking and doing. Design does not own thinking. Design thinking is one way to think. The concept of design thinking was a great branding gimmick for us designers. It got us in front of decision makers, and it continues to get us in front of decision makers. But like most concepts or gimmicks, it is now overused and overvalued because it is too often believed to be the answer. Design thinking has become far too commercialized, and it's easy to think we are better than others. We are not better than others. No one discipline will save this world. And this brings me to my favorite part of Ben Shahn's book, the definition of integrity. It still makes me cry reading this, so I'm sorry if I get emotional. The uniting of everything you do, your actions, your attitudes, how you behave, how you work, how you think, the knowledge and experiences you obtain, your set of ethics and values. These things are dynamic. They are not static. They are ever-changing because we learn something new every single day. But we are not taught how to reflect on this. Instead, we form blinders with our expert hat on, and with the more experience we gain. The more expert we become, the more telescopic our view is. And we see the world through this little tiny lens. I believe you must learn to self-reflect and understand who you are and why you are the way you are before you can really be conscious of good design. We have this strong desire to help others, but if we do not help ourselves first, it's going to be difficult. It's about connecting the dots, connecting your past with your present to your own desired future. And this is how you begin to understand your own knowledge base. And I want to spend some time with our knowledge base. This matrix is our knowledge base. Jamer Hunt of Parsons School of Design is the first person I know who used this in the field of design. But it comes from psychology. So let's walk through this clockwise, starting at the top left corner. We have the known knowns. that we say we know, our truths. How often do we question our own truths? Or are they actually assumptions and biases? It's a question to you guys. Then we have our known unknowns. We know we don't know something about something, and we either let it be or we choose to investigate it. And that's often how we as consultants get in, because someone's got a problem and we're supposed to help them fix it, and they kind of point you in the direction they think the problem is, okay? But we also have the unknown unknowns, and we all desperately have been there. We hate being there, except for me, I love being there. As we try to find out, how do I know what I do not know I need to know in order to get the job done? It's every time I Google, huh? So, but the unknown unknowns are quite terrifying when you dive into them. And I'll come back to that. And finally, we have the unknown knowns. Things we know but don't want to see or refuse to see. And to help you further, I want to give you a lamp metaphor. This is a table lamp with the strongest light going downward. What we know is represented by the strongest light. What we know we do not know is the weaker light. But how often are we willing to go to the darkness, to the unknown unknowns? That which we do not know, we do not know. This is the most accessible to us and largest area of our knowledge base, and we don't like to go there. And finally, we have the lamppost that represents what we know but do not want to see, even when it's right in front of our nose. Now, why is this important? Most individuals and companies prefer staying in the top half of this matrix, also designers. When you get a job, they have already defined the boundaries in this top half. So when we say we're going to the unknown unknowns, we're only going to the unknown unknowns in the top half. That's our problem. But this is not clever at all, because that is how we stagnate. We stagnate when we only allow our knowledge base to stay within the known knowns and the known unknowns. Now, when we only look for answers, I'm sorry, I got all confused with my notes here. When we only look for answers on the bottom half of the screen, we will possibly, if we're lucky, be able to reinvent ourselves, or we can reinvent the company that we're working with, but it comes at a serious risk, and this risk has to do with uncertainty. So why we don't go there is because none of us like to feel uncertain. We want to have control. But the only way to a resilient and robust future is being in all four quadrants at the same time. I'm really sorry to tell you there's no other easier way. I can promise you, however, if you dare to take this journey, that it's an exciting one. So how do you begin such a journey? It starts by daring to search for unknown unknowns and the unknown knowns. And the only way I know to do this is that we have to dare to get lost in the woods. Really lost, and it's scary. But there is a purpose of getting lost, and that is to find a path or create one. We need to reflect on our knowledge base, both as a human, but also as a designer, because this is where the biggest problems lie. Our biggest challenge to being great at service and UX design are our assumptions. I see them everywhere. I unteach service design and unteach UX at the university. I help my students uncover their own biases and assumptions surrounding our field and our workplaces and ourselves and others. We try to think about our goals and tasks, but we end up in a labyrinth that even our dotted notebooks can't get us out of. Or, and this is where I really have a pet peeve, we spend weeks, we get a project, right? We spend weeks making a fucking interview guide to test some hypothesis. We have assumptions and biases in those damn interview guides and the damn 2 weeks that we've spent. Makes me crazy. And these serious biases are what cause so many of our challenges. When we prepare to go out in the field, am I making all the noise?
Sorry.
It wasn't on my bra. You know, these things are made by men for men, and you have to remember to wear a belt, otherwise they've got it hanged up. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You'd think after all these years in 2022, they could make something that I could use? Yeah. So we have some serious design biases. Preparing to go out in the field, you cannot design services without testing with real people. We spend a shitload of time preparing questions to find answers. Why? I have one question for you all. Why can't you just go out and have a good dialogue with someone? I can guarantee that you will have a much better conversation without your questionnaire and your interview guide, and that the conversation will be more real, and it'll be more meaningful, relevant, and value for everyone, and also for your ultimate solution, than your semi-structured interview guide, which is filled with your biases and assumptions. So all that preparing to make you feel safe, and I know that's what it's all about, because I've tried and pushed for years, is that people are afraid to go out and take that step and meet somebody who they don't know. I saw it in the mingling place. People were swarming away from it. God forbid that I have to talk to somebody I don't know without my interview guide. So the problem with feeling safe and secure is that it puts you in the labyrinth of your own biases and your clients' biases. And personas are also frustrating. I have yet to find a persona that does anything other than bias us more. Personas kill any ounce of dynamicism. Have any of you, just question again, have any of you ever met someone who acts like a persona? Is there someone here who has? Please raise your hand. I would love to interview you. I'll have a conversation. See, nobody. Personas are fake people, built on usually averages without an understanding of statistics. I beg you to build for one real person that you have bothered to know deeply, and you have a better chance at success than any persona you fake it with. Thank you. Recommendation 2, avoid bias and your own assumptions. Stop planning and allow yourself to get lost. Ah, man. Made for men, designed by men for men. That was the whole problem. Okay, now back to the recommendations. So stop planning. You've probably read it all. I could skip it, but I have some points I want to talk about it. You have to get lost. Go to those conversations. They will give you information that will help you maybe design a questionnaire for the future. But don't start with a questionnaire or interview guide. The next is dialogue and converse. That's your best friend from now on. Debrief your observations, your feelings, your understandings with other people always. You cannot think alone. And that reminds me of perhaps even more important point, which is I believe strongly, and I talk about this a lot in another talk I do, that as an anthropologist, as a researcher, when you are having a conversation with people, do not rely on your own understanding of the conversation. Go out to people. Way better results if there are two who've been out there seeing different things, understanding different things, and discussing it together in a debrief. And remember this, one real human being you know deeply can give you more information than some quasi-crap, really short bullshit, excuse me, 7, 20, 100,000 respondent questionnaire. Now, we're visualizers, designers. I'm actually not. I help make them, but I'm not. But we have to be aware of the danger of visualization. Organizations are amoebas, constantly moving and changing. And I see far too many designers who give a delivery of a gigamap or systems map. It's really cool now. It's really in. So it's like sort of the new in thing, these systems mapping. That becomes the established truth within the organizations. They actually stop organizations from changing. And as I began, changes are only constant. And when we deliver these tools to the client, we must take responsibility for the consequences of them. They sit on the walls long after the visualized truth has transformed to something else. And they turn into an established, static object that hinders change. This is not okay. We are responsible for this, and we need to be held accountable, even if our intent was good. The whole purpose of those visualizations are for dialogue and conversation, so that everyone has the same picture, right? But what happens when that picture gets stuck on the wall and they can't move from it? Who's there to help them then? Companies end up being stuck in fuck with the established, visualized truth. In a world of constant change, we need to be able to adapt quickly. But we also get stuck in fuck as people. We end up focusing on things not relevant. For example, using the same dry cleaners to ensure our uniforms look identical, and we have the same haircut, and we learn to smile the same way. And yes, we also hire people just like ourselves. Even designers do this. And I get it. When you hire people just like yourself, they agree on just about everything, and you have your own fan club, and that feels really safe. Remember the knowledge bias, or the knowledge base, upper two quadrants. This particular photograph is actually 5 years old, and it comes from a press conference these men had after taking a lot of heat because they didn't hire a woman leader. You know what they said at this press conference? They said it was their responsibility to create good women leaders, and they apologized for not doing their job. Seriously? Are these three the ones to teach me how to be a good leader? And can they not learn anything from me? I've been lucky to meet amazing people who have allowed me to be me and who have given me the opportunity to lead. I have also smashed into walls of closed-minded thinkers who are so afraid to look at themselves and instead attack change or others. But this picture, it's so last century, right? We don't think like that anymore, right? I was so unfortunate to wake up to this picture not so long ago, in the middle of COVID lockdown. Headlines: these gentlemen created a low-cost airline in the middle of our global environmental crisis. Headlines. What crack were they smoking? And why did we not demonstrate against this? And last and not least, where the hell is diversity in 2022? Diversity of gender, of age, of disciplines, of experience. Now, I mentioned earlier, I get it. Like-minded children play best together. But honey, they don't learn anything. And the most serious lesson for us is that we are no better than these men when we believe ourselves and our design thinking and doing to be better than other disciplines. We are different, and that can be celebrated. But we are not better. Our toolkit for being robust and able to adapt with the changes around us to create a collective future, I believe, is transdisciplinary thinking and doing. Transdisciplinary is not cross-disciplinary. In cross-disciplinary settings or multidisciplinary settings, we cross paths with each other or we hand over to each other. And have you ever noticed that in a handshake, it breaks? Have you ever noticed that? We're not stuck together. In these cross-disciplinary teams, one discipline often has power, the decision-making power. We're talking about power dynamics. In the digital world, it's pretty easy to see. You create your design with all the features in place, and someone says it's too expensive, so they cut a bunch of features, including the one that makes the big difference for the person who's actually going to use the product. Or we are unlucky enough to work with the famous waterfall method of handovers. In Norway, the people in power, and I think it's the same here in Sweden, they're either economists or engineers. And I have news for you. Economists and engineers are not smarter than designers or social scientists or psychologists. Economists and engineers think differently, and that is a good thing. But they should not be allowed to think alone, and neither should we. We can't afford to sit here and think we are the best in the world. Oh, we designers. That demands constant change and transformation. A world that needs to be robust and adaptable to change. It is impossible for one discipline, including design, to have all the answers. It is impossible that one model or one way of thinking will save our planet. We must harvest the collective intelligence of the different disciplines to solve the wicked problems we're faced with today. In a transdisciplinary environment, every discipline is equal. And the goal is to use all our knowledge together to come up with new models and new solutions. And these models and solutions, we don't know what they look like. We must dare to explore the room of possibility together. And we need to dare to try new methods and mix our ways of thinking, because that's when magic really happens. And it begins when we remove our ego. Ego is actually easy to deal with in meetings. We think it isn't, but it's really easy. You start the meeting with a trash can outside of the meeting room, post the ego on it, And you make everybody who comes into that meeting put their ego in the trash can before they go into the meeting. And what happens then is someone gets riled up. They get frustrated because they can't have their ego. So they're allowed, it's totally allowed in the middle of the meeting to say, I need my ego. Then you go get your ego and everyone laughs, and you go get your ego and you say your piece and then you put your ego back in the trash can. So the point is all that working around it, we start learning of why. It's just a tactic. The only tactic is to everyone. We're all equal here. We're all thinkers together. We're all doers together. And if we can just stop, put that away for a while and think about what problem is it that we're trying to solve and how can these different ways of thinking and different ways of doing help us achieve it. It's really amazing and it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I could talk about this. The other thing you need, of course, is active listening, and I could talk about that for an hour, which we don't have. I see the world of design in evolution and revolution terms. We're in constant change. We've moved from designing for people, big ego, right? And then we came to designing with people. And now for the sake of the planet and people and all living things, we must move further into designing change through facilitation, using a transdisciplinary thinking and doing approach. I don't know how it's going to look, and that's kind of cool. We as humans, not designers, are ethically responsible for guiding and facilitating reflective change for the good of our people, our companies, our communities, our nations, and our planet. Dare to find magic in the unknown unknowns. Dare to go out to those scary places. Dare to transcend, because this is what happens when you're in a transdisciplinary approach. Dare to transcend your own knowledge and work together with diversity of gender, age, domain expertise, experience, and more. We together will come up with new models, new ways of thinking, and new ways of doing that will transform the world. And remember, all that is solid melts into air. Everything is fluid. Create for adaptability and flexibility to change. Yep, fuck design thinking. Move to transdisciplinary thinking. Fuck your ego. Dare to be equal thinkers in a transdisciplinary world. I'd like to share at the end one of my favorite poems. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we're afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them and they flew. As a design anthropologist and psychologist, I have always worked on the edge. I hope I inspire you to come to the edge with me. I promise I won't push you, but I will jump with you into the unknowns, and we will find new ways to create meaningful, relevant, useful, and desirable products and services for the people we serve. We will fly together, transforming the world around us and helping to make a much-needed paradigm shift or shifts. Thank you.